No, I think that what you're hearing is just like, so we know it's not right. It's almost like you sitting here saying, no, you shouldn't be busting a woman before you marry, but you did it. You know what I'm saying? We know that it's wrong, but it ain't gonna stop you from doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
But
you kind of understand, like, dang, that is hard because you kind of empathize with the man, like, dang, you ain't had sex. You know what I'm saying? In your head, you know the right answer is you should not be having sex before marriage. You know, we don't take that away. You understand that, but you also understand a man's needs. So as women, it's almost the same thing. We're saying, no, that ain't an ideal situation. Nobody should want to be a single mom. But at the end of the day, we do understand that you want to be a mom, and it's a sucky situation. It's like it's you can understand that it is absolutely wrong and still empathize with you can and say, okay, I can understand, like, that's a horrible dilemma you got going on there. You
so
understand?
so so Yoki, so let me so when I was talking about it, the way so when a person makes an individual decision that affects their life negatively, it's wrong, but that is on them. When you do something that affects somebody else's life negatively, it's uber wrong, and we need to talk as much as we can against it. A parallel to this would be men want sex, women want babies, right? Could we agree? Men wants, per your example you just used,
I,
men
I, I
want
say
sex.
I say men want sex, women want commitment.
Okay. So a man that wants sex, what if he decided to do what was necessary to make sure he got sex, whatever that was?
Then that's wrong. They do it all the time. Absolutely, that's
Say that
wrong.
again.
We
Say that
talk
So,
about
again.
the, we talk about that's exact scenario. We talk about it all the time. And what are some of the things? Well, she should know better. I mean, how long, you can't see the red flags. She should be, what I'm saying, like you don't know what a man playing. You should ask the right questions. Like, it's always putting it back on the other person.
I was saying the equivalent to having a child that intentionally harms someone else outside of your own specific decision making is similar to a man harming a woman or whoever else he's trying to have sex with to fulfill that need that he has.
I agree.
So,
I think it's
so
an extreme verbiage to use abuse. Again, I
Mm.
can't speak specifically to Ebony's situation because I'm not as knowledgeable about the entire situation, just what you guys have said. But what I am going by is if a woman is, call it 40, and she's not gotten married for whatever reason, relationships have not worked out, have not turned into marriage, and she chooses to adopt or she chooses to have a child by artificial insemination. I don't think the correct verbiage would, I think it's an extreme verbiage, let me say that, to call it abuse. I think there are words that can describe it, maybe selfish, but abuse, I think that's a bit extreme, in my opinion. I do agree with the comment earlier. When you have an audience, you should be very careful in what you encourage, knowing that you have the ability to influence others. I think some of the comments that you make can be reckless, and if you know that you have the ability to influence other people. I think that maybe is the situation with this because of her stature, her situation, her social media status. Again, I don't know her, but that's what it sounds like. But across the board, the average person, female, doesn't have that kind of influence and stature and ability to influence people. So for me, in generalities, to call it across the board, a woman who turns 40, her relationship status hasn't worked out, she hasn't been married, she wants to have a baby, and to say she gets artificial insemination, that's abuse, I think that's a bit extreme.
Okay, so one, I think you have to separate adoption and bringing a child into the world. Those are two completely different things. Completely different. One is you're choosing to. They're both completely different. And the reason I'm drawing a line to abuse is this: we all agree that parental alienation is abuse of the child, right?
Mm-hmm.
The intentional removal of the other parent constitutes abuse. Then I ask the question: if you drop a child on purpose, is that abuse versus accidentally dropping a child? I think the lines, so if you bring a child into this life with no other parent intentionally, that's how I'm drawing the abuse line.
So I actually agree with Tan on, because it's really difficult to call it abuse. Because from your standpoint, yes, you see it as abuse. From somebody else's, it is, they're not really abusing anyone, but we know the outcomes. Now, with that being said, it goes back to how your moral compass points. And Marcus, in my opinion, you have one of the most true north compasses, black and white, of anybody I've ever met. And you're pretty consistent on it. So with that being said, there's that gray area where I don't think that it's the way you define it. I don't define it that way the same as I don't think Tan does. None of us here have agreed that what she did was what she's doing is the right course of action. I think we would all agree that it's probably not the best course of action, especially for the child, nor do I personally condone it under any circumstance. I believe adoption is the way to go. However, if you have the means and the ability to choose the DNA, to choose how the child is going to be centered as a person, would you take that option over something random, maybe a drug addict's baby, maybe two violent people's baby? And that's what she chose. She chose that, hey, I get to pick the way the DNA flows, and that was her decision. I can't call that abuse, nor could I call adoption abuse by a single parent. I mean, by a single person. I just don't.
It's just not
I
an
personally, I don't see it the way you see it, but I do agree it's not ideal for anybody to be a single parent.
And we're
So
gonna so after you finish AP, we're gonna go to Enos, then Marcus, and then we're gonna
Oh, I'm done. Go ahead, Marcus or Enos.
Sorry, I'm really struggling with tech tonight. So AP, I want to say back the words that you used, and maybe that'll help you understand more where the lines of abuse kind of come in. You said, and not verbatim, I'm paraphrasing, but she made a choice knowing what the likelihood outcome was going to be. So if you're knowingly gambling where the odds are stacked against you, would that not be considered abuse? Like, you're aware of what the statistics are, you're aware of what the outcome is. Sure, you can offset it, but there's still a very high likelihood that it will not be in favor, and you're still making that decision. Would that not be considered abuse?
No, if I personally had the means and resources that she has, and I didn't think that I would be disadvantaging the child, and as which I don't think she actually believes she's disadvantaging the child, I don't think that that's abuse.